Riders of the Lost Road, Chapter 1. The open road, Gavi, the engine hums beneath me like a heartbeat. The road stretches forward, an unbroken ribbon of asphalt curling into the horizon as if it has no end. There's a strange kind of poetry in that. A road that never really stops, only fades into the next mile, the next town, the next unknown. I left Mumbai for this, not just to see America, but to feel it, to touch the wind that carried Kerouac's ghosts, to taste the dust of the Mojave, to let the neon glow of a highway diner flicker in my eyes like an old memory. I didn't come looking for escape. I came looking for something I lost before I even knew I had it. Route 66. I'd read about it in books, seen it in faded photographs, the kind that make you nostalgic for a time you never lived. This was supposed to be the road of dreams, of movement, of transformation. The old highway had carried drifters and wanderers, outlaws and poets. Now it carried me. The first few hours, I rode in silence. The thrum of the bike and the wind rushing past were the only sounds that mattered. I had no destination in mind, no mapped-out journey, just the feeling of forward motion. I stopped only for gas, for coffee that tasted of burnt nostalgia, for the occasional conversation with a stranger who asked me where I was from, then nodded as if my answer fit neatly into their world. Somewhere in the Arizona desert, the sun began to sink low, setting the sky on fire. The heat of the day faded into the cool breath of twilight. I pulled over at a small roadside station, its sign blinking weakly in the evening light. That's where I met him. A man stood by the gas pump, his motorcycle as worn and restless as my own. Long black hair tied back, a sharp profile cut against the fading sun. He didn't acknowledge me at first, just watched the numbers climb on the pump. His bike was an old Indian chief, midnight blue with silver etchings along the gas tank. It was the kind of machine that had history, the kind that had carried stories long before he ever touched the handlebars. When he finally turned to me, his gaze was steady, measuring. "Where you headed?" I shrugged, pulling off my helmet. "Nowhere in particular, just riding." A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Good answer." I held out a hand. "Coffee?" "Elijah." He shook my hand, his grip firm, his skin warm from the desert air. There was something in his eyes, an old kind of knowing, the kind that comes from carrying the weight of history. We stood there a moment, two riders at the edge of the world, measuring the silence between us. Then he nodded toward the diner across the lot. "Come on. Coffee's terrible, but the stories are worth it." "Elijah, I wasn't looking for company. The road is better when you're alone. At least, that's what I used to believe. Out here, it's just you and the land. The sky stretching so wide it makes you feel small in the best way." But when I saw him pull up, something told me he wasn't just another tourist looking for a Route 66 experience. His bike was worn but cared for. His gear wasn't flashy. Just practical. And when he took off his helmet, his eyes had the same kind of restlessness I saw in my own reflection. So I invited him in, maybe because I wanted to hear his story, maybe because I knew that sometimes the road gives you what you don't know you need. The diner was the kind of place that hadn't changed in 50 years. Checkered floors, red leather booths that had lost their shine, a waitress who looked like she had seen more miles than both of us combined. We sat in a corner booth, the neon sign outside casting a slow, rhythmic glow over the table. "You always ride alone?" Gavi asked, stirring too much sugar into his coffee. I nodded. "Mostly. Ever get tired of it?" I considered that for a moment. "No, but sometimes the road feels heavier than it should." He sipped his coffee, thoughtful. "I know what you mean." I didn't ask him why he was here. The road has a way of bringing people to it for their own reasons, and I figured he'd tell me if he wanted to. Instead, we talked about the bikes, about the roads we had taken to get here, about the places we wanted to see, though neither of us could quite explain why. When the check came, he reached for his wallet, but I waved him off. "You can get the next one," he smiled. Fair enough. Outside, the night had settled deep. The air was cool, and the stars were sharp as glass against the black sky. "Where are you headed next?" I asked. He tilted his head, thinking, "Wherever the road takes me." I looked out at the stretch of empty highway, the moonlight reflecting off the curve of my bike's gas tank. "I know a place," I said, "a little off the main route. It's not on any maps, but it's got a story worth hearing." Kafi raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like my kind of detour." We climbed onto our bikes, engines rumbling to life beneath us. The road stretched out ahead, waiting, and just like that, we rode into the night, two strangers, bound by the road, chasing something neither of us could name. Chapter 2. The Spirit of Adventure. Kafi never told my mother I was leaving. Not really. I told her I was taking some time off, that I needed a break. She nodded, the way she always did when she disapproved of something but didn't want to argue. Her silence was sharper than words, a quiet judgment that carried the weight of generations. The truth was, I wasn't coming back, not to the same life, not to the path that had been paved for me since birth, the carefully planned career in finance, the expectations of marriage, of duty. I had spent years playing the role of the responsible son, the one who didn't question, who followed the path laid out before him. But something inside me had always resisted, some restless voice that whispered of open roads and forgotten stories, of a life beyond fluorescent-lit offices and polite, suffocating obligations. And so I left. I still remember the moment my plane touched down in Los Angeles, the disorienting rush of foreign voices, the sharp tang of jet fuel in the air, the unsettling thrill of knowing I was completely alone in a country I barely understood. I had a motorcycle waiting for me, one I'd spent months researching, saving for, a Royal Enfield Interceptor, an homage to home, yet something that could carry me far from it. I hit the road that same day, the city shrinking behind me, swallowed by the endless sprawl of highways. I didn't have a plan, only movement. Now, miles from anywhere, the only sound is the hum of my engine and the wind pushing against my body. I loosen my grip on the handlebars, letting the machine glide effortlessly beneath me, as if it's alive, breathing with me. The desert stretches out on either side, golden and infinite. The sky overhead a pale blue that darkens as the sun sinks lower. There's something about the road that makes you confront yourself. When you strip everything else away, the noise of expectation, the routines that make up a life, you're left with nothing but your own thoughts, and mine won't let me rest. I think about my father, a man of precision, of structure. He used to say, "The world is not a place for wanderers." He believed in plans, in purpose, in the quiet dignity of fulfilling one's duty. When I told him I wanted something different, he laughed, then shook his head, as if he had indulged a child's foolish dream for a moment too long. "What do you think you'll find out there?" he had asked, setting his newspaper aside. I didn't have an answer then. I'm still looking for one now. I think about my mother, the way she pressed a tiffin box into my hands before I left, as if homemade food could tether me to home. Her parting words had been soft, almost pleading. "Don't go too far, Beta." She didn't mean the miles. She meant something deeper, the distance between the world she knew and the one I was trying to carve out for myself. I exhale, shaking the memories loose. I am not lost. I am exactly where I am meant to be. I let my fingers drum against the gas tank, feeling the steady vibration beneath my touch. The road bends ahead, disappearing into the horizon. I roll the throttle, pushing forward, faster, further, The wind roars past me, and for the first time in a long while I feel free. Elijah Kavi rides like someone trying to outrun something. I've seen it before, the way some people hit the road like it's an escape hatch. Like if they just keep moving, the past won't catch up. I don't ask him what he's running from. Not yet. The road teaches patience. The sky is ink dark now, the stars scattered like a spilled handful of silver. We stop at the edge of a dry riverbed, the kind that only sees water when the storms come. The night air is cool, carrying the scent of dust and sage. I swing my leg off my bike, stare. We'll set up here, I say, nodding toward the open ground. No traffic, no lights, just the stars. Kavi hesitates. You camp out here? Sometimes. You should try it. He looks around, as if seeing the emptiness for the first time. In the distance, the low hum of a coyote's call echoes across the valley. He doesn't argue. We gather some dried wood, enough for a small fire. The flames flicker to life, casting long shadows across the desert floor. Kavi sits across from me, his eyes reflecting the firelight. Back home I never did this. What? Ride? No. Sit under an open sky and just be. He leans back, staring up at the night. There was always something. Work, family, noise. It never stopped. I toss a small branch into the fire, and he smiles, just a little. Now I don't know, but at least I can hear myself think. That's the thing about the road. It doesn't give you answers, but it strips away everything until all that's left is the truth you've been avoiding. And sometimes that's enough. We sleep under the star, the fire dying to embers. The ground is hard, the air still, the night stretching wide around us. Somewhere in the distance, the highway hums with the movement of unseen travelers, people chasing something, running from something. I don't know where Kavi's road will lead, but I have a feeling our paths will run together a little longer. For now, that's enough. Chapter 3. Crossing paths. Kavi, the road was different at night. During the day, it was endless, a ribbon of sun-bleached asphalt stretching toward the unknown. But when the sun dipped below the horizon, the world shrank to the narrow cone of my headlight. The road became a whisper, something half-imagined, existing only a few feet ahead of me, before vanishing into the dark. I had been riding for hours, the Arizona heat giving way to the cool desert air, when I spotted the glow of a neon sign in the distance, a diner, its light buzzing faintly against the backdrop of the empty landscape. I pulled into the gravel lot, the crunch of my tires the only sound for miles. The place was the kind of roadside stop that felt frozen in time. Checkered tiles, faded booths, a jukebox that probably hadn't worked in years. A battered sign on the door read, "Open late." I wasn't the only traveler here. A motorcycle was already parked outside, its deep midnight blue paint glinting under the fluorescence. Not a Harley, not a touring bike. It was something else, something old, something with history. An Indian chief, classic in design, its silver detailing catching the dim light like a whisper of another time. I didn't know then that the man inside would change the course of my journey. I just knew I wasn't alone. Elijah, I noticed him the second he walked in. There's a way a rider moves, even off the bike, like they're still carrying the rhythm of the road in their bones. He had that look, dust on his boots, jacket broken in from miles, not from style. But he was different, not just another American chasing the freedom of the highway. His stance, his hesitation at the door, the way his eyes scanned the room before stepping inside. It all told me he was somewhere foreign, somewhere that didn't quite fit him yet. He wasn't from here. I turned back to my coffee, pretending not to notice when he slid into the booth a few seats away. The waitress, a woman who had seen more miles than both of us combined, came over and poured him a cup before he even asked. Long ride? She asked, the way people do when they don't really care about the answer. Gavi nodded. Yeah, his accent was subtle, but I caught it. Not heavy. Just enough to know he wasn't born on this stretch of land. He stirred his coffee slowly, watching the steam rise. I could feel his eyes flick to me, measuring. The same way I was measuring him. Strangers on the road are a complicated thing. You either ignore them or you size them up. I decided to do neither. Gavi, the silence between us stretched like the road outside. Long, empty, uncertain. I wasn't sure why I kept glancing at him. Maybe because he looked like he belonged here in a way I never could. Maybe because something about him felt familiar, even though I knew we had never met. His hair was long, pulled back loosely, and his face was sharp, carved by wind and time. He had the stillness of someone who didn't need to prove anything to the world. That was rare. I looked back at my coffee, willing myself to focus on something else. You ride far? His voice broke the silence, low and steady. I glanced up. His gaze was direct, not unfriendly, but guarded. Yeah, I said. Started in California, heading east. He took a sip of coffee, nodding slightly. Any place in mind? No. I let out a slow breath. Just moving. He studied me for a moment, then set his cup down. Good way to be. I didn't know if he meant that, or if he was testing me. Before I could decide, the waitress set down a plate in front of him. Pancakes stacked high. He cut into them without hurry. The scrape of his fork, the only sound between us. I wasn't hungry, but I was tired. And in a strange way, I didn't want to leave just yet. What about you? I asked. Been on the road long? He nodded. Yeah, long enough. His answers were measured, careful, like someone used to keeping his thoughts to himself. But then, without looking up, he added, Name's Elijah. I hesitated, then extended my hand. Gavi. His grip was firm, warm, rough from the handlebars. We sat there, two strangers in a roadside diner, bound by nothing but the hum of the highway outside. The road had a strange way of bringing people together. I just didn't know yet why it had brought us here.